The dogs are out as we have a Pup Cup over the weekend. The new CDL superstar from Germany has officially signed, and the Call of Duty Challengers Elites are getting ready to kick off here next week. Find out about this and more in This Week in Challengers. The org ForFun threw a $3,000 tournament over the weekend. Had some of our fan favorite teams in there, as well as some new ones coming on in. It was really fun to see not only an org come out and want to sponsor an event just so that way everybody can get some more reps in before the elite coming on in a week or so. It was kind of just great to see. It kind of felt like a little bit old-fashioned COD, my man. It was great just to see someone say, hey, here's $3,000. Let's have something to play for. Let's get some of the best challenger teams we can in here, and let's let them hash it on out.
Yeah, it was great to watch. It was weird. It kind of caught me by surprise. I kind of took like a little bit of a Christmas break. You and me had both kind of like, all right, we've done quite a bit of work to round out the year. Let's kind of slow things down a little bit, take off the gas. And suddenly all these players were like, all right, getting ready for the ForFun invitation. I was like, what the hell is this? Found it a great watch. Didn't get to tune into it as much as I usually do with like your cups and so on, but definitely some surprise results I think we're going to see from this. Falcons Academy, technically green this one, I believe, although this the team officially listed under as Falcons Academy come out on top. So that's Roxas, QK, Asim, and Rupert. So, I mean, these guys, we know that QK in particular, right? He's really impressed us recently with how he's been stepping up. Really glad to see that he's not only managing to step up in a way that makes him look great, but now the rest of the team as well starts to prosper around that. And Rupert as well, like, we got to remember that he was part of that Cabal team that you and me loved so much.
Yes.
Go their separate ways. I was very worried about where all their chips were going to end up falling, but looks like he's sitting pretty over there with the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, I know we kind of had some questions, right? Because it felt like with Asim, had this early, roster that we had seen him play with sort of in that Challenger Showcase very early on in the season, and didn't look necessarily the best. But I think I'm like that this roster that we've seen sort of the Falcons Academy really land on. I'm going to echo your same sentiments. It's great to see Rupert, after watching that Cabal team unfortunately blow it up, to find a spot on this team and kind of feels like maybe is the player to make it out of the roster mania that can kind of come with the team blowing it up, right? Lands on this team. We're huge fans of QK. I know Roxas obviously was part of that initial Falcons roster on the CDL side. Maybe need a little bit more time to develop. And I kind of wonder, are we starting to see that time that to marinate here in Challengers really come to fruition with Roxas, right? You got some leadership with Asim. Obviously, QK feels like he's finding his form as well. I just really like what we saw from that roster because their bracket was not easy at all, right? If we kind of take a look here, right? They have the second round, right? They have to go against OMiT Brooklyn, kind of the hottest team on the market right now. I think maybe besides like Telluride Bush, right? They're up there in that conversation. It's a 3-0. They 3-1 their sister team. They 3-0 Next Threat Black, and then are able to, or actually they get 3-0, by Next Threat Black, but then they face them at Brooklyn again. It's another 3-1, and they get back in the grand finals and get their revenge, right? So it's nice to see them obviously come out, have that ability to stomp, but also bounce back when you obviously have that little bit of falter in a bracket.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is a trait that we've kind of hit pro teams with in the past, where they can look great when it's all smooth sailing, but as soon as they hit that rut, they tend to fall away pretty fast. But Falcons Academy here, they managed to overcome that and appear to have learned their lessons, coming out on top 4-1 against Next Threat Black. I've seen that you and me stood and talked very proudly of last week. So it's Diamond Con, Standy, Johnny, and Exceed over there, coached by Marky B and a couple others. So they come in second in the end. Third is OMiT Brooklyn, Brack, Fellow, Nate, and Alluka. I've made a little bit of a love child there between two ex-CDL pros. Then it's the Stallions, Encourage, Swooty, Legend, and Havoc. Now, that's an interesting one because all the conversation at the minute, obviously, about them is Havoc coming in, Legend looking better. Obviously, Swooty, Encourage, they're thriving amongst that at the minute, so they're getting better every single week by the looks of it. Then it's your Falcons Academy White and Bush Gaming top 6. Your top 8 was Next Threat Red and High Treason. And then down from there, you're talking 5 Fierce Team Proto Cabal Gaming for fun, all top 12. Stallions Black, Team of Victix, Team Desilution, and Team Luge, all top 16. So that was kind of how this one rounds out. Now, the reason I've gone through all the placings is I feel like there's a conversation here that you and me really want to have, my friend. And that is that people are calling this a Pup Cup. Brother, this is a stacked-ass tournament. This is full of, I mean, this is what, 7 of like the top 10 teams or something like that? Like, this is a really tough tournament to play in. But also, you've got to add in the fact that like this couldn't be a better time to be taking more momentum forward because it's the elite qualifier real soon.
Well, and I think that's kind of the thing. I'm right there with you. It's like I was looking about this, people calling it Pup Cup, and I'm like, well, we're missing what, P7, right? Or is I think the only org that we're really missing, right? that awakening, kind of squad that we've seen. And I feel like it's just, it's a little bit disrespectful, I feel like, to call it a Pup Cup, just like you said, given how many of the top teams. But what kind of is showcasing to me as well is that these sort of top 4 or 5 teams that, at least through the cups, that we were seeing kind of be towards the top, really perform week over week, are continuing to have that level of standard, right? We're seeing just sort of these squads are starting to go blow for blow when it comes to these sort of tournament formats. Now, we're going to talk about how the elite works later on, but it does have me kind of curious where when these teams are allowed to kind of really play each other in not a tournament setting, where they can maybe throw out a weird map, try a new strategy against some of these teams, that's where we start to see sort of challengers start to develop, and some of these teams maybe get some of those tricks up their bag. And an event like this is a really good way, I think, to, like you said, I think the key word there is momentum. It's carry that same momentum where, oh, we just went from back-to-back weekends of the first 3 cups, and now we kind of, some teams maybe took the time off, didn't really have anything going on until those Challenger Elite qualifiers. Well, hey, this is a good way. Keep it fresh. Some of these rosters are new. They need to get those reps underneath their belt. I really love that we have an org putting this out there for those reasons, and then it kind of just feels like we are watching some of these orgs take this a little bit more seriously than others to be able to get those reps that they so desperately need. We also learned our lesson here from last week as we decided to record a day later, because we knew that there was some news that was going to be breaking here, and that is
always
probably
Tuesday.
I know it's always on a Monday that this news goes ahead and breaks. To nobody's surprise, it was the worst kept secret of the last 2 weeks, I think. We see Alluka of OMiT Brooklyn getting signed, of course, as a sub to the FaZe Vegas that is going on. As I'm going to let this trailer play out, which is sick, please go watch it in sound and thing. And Nemo, what do we think about this signing of bringing a superstar Alluka up to a sub spot on a CDL roster?
In a way, I'm kind of gutted that we don't get it as a surprise, right? We all knew about this, unfortunately, and I'd love it to have been like kind of just dropped on a timeline throughout our Christmas period. Like was it the 29th or something that they dropped it? I forget what it was, but either way, they drop it, and it says it would have been not a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention recently. Obviously, Alluka has his pop-off moments, does very well. This is a young man, 18-year-old, played a lot in the youth scene. Comes through. You're talking other players that have recently done that, like Nate and Hyde. These are all players that are all kind of paying attention to alongside of him. He's, this flex. He's going to be a player that I think for FaZe he'll tick a couple of different boxes, but it's a wonderful way that I think the challenger pipeline should work. First one is obviously immediately it should be applying a pressure to the team. Now FaZe don't look awful at the minute, but they certainly could be better. Simp looks like he's a god form player at the minute. This looks like the best version of Simp we've seen in a couple of years. They should be getting results, and I think that their ARs in particular are struggling. Abuza, he's been more their objective player, so you can let the slack off of him a little bit. I think this immediately applies pressure to Drata. So for FaZe, this is a case of, all right, you're getting that at the very least. If that doesn't then get better results, you've got an opportunity to drop Alluka into the starting lineup, see if he can reach his potential after learning from some of the best players in the world. That's part 2. Point 3 is also just not doing what so many teams did last year, looking at you, Toronto, and that is miss out on one of the hottest properties on the market and hand it to your biggest rivals. So, yeah, I think that it's a great move to see FaZe going very early. Obviously, everyone's looking for their next miracle maker, and Alluka here hopefully going to be that for this team.
Yeah, no, and it's really interesting to me that it's like, I feel like Alluka kind of has a lot of really good things going for him. One, I think being a good flex in whether it's challengers or the CDL is so hard, right? And the fact that he is able to be a flex means, okay, if he needs to slot into maybe one of those sub roles, you're going to feel pretty confident that he's going to be able to. Needs to slot into more of an AR role, going to feel confident that he's going to be able to, right? And especially in a game like this, where I think what we're seeing with a lot of our subs, especially how important those objective and dirty work players are, but also it feels like this game really rewards both play styles of subs, right? Where it's going to reward the objective player, and it's also really going to reward the route man who's trying to hit those crazy plays, right? And pop a 2-piece in the back when you're not expecting it. And it feels like Alluka is just one of those players that we've seen through challengers who's going to be able to slot into whatever system that you're probably going to be able to throw them into. So I really like what we see there. We also see here, OMiT continues to be the #1 agency, apparently, of the challengers to CDL pipeline yet again. We kind of heard some rumblings, early on when Alluka was signed, and kind of when we saw this OMiT Brooklyn roster really get formed, where everyone's like, yo, this is the next up guy. And I think you hit it right on the head. Merck last year, I think, put the league on watch that finally there is young, undiscovered talent in challengers that you cannot ignore. It feels like maybe this is finally the catalyst we needed to kind of beat the Friends League allegations, right? That now talent matters. And with somebody like Alluka, all it takes is going to a major and somebody, God forbid, gets food poisoning and you got to throw in your sub, and he all of a sudden has a superstar series that, might get you a contract spot on a top team that's there. So I'm really excited about this personally. I think that this is a really cool thing. I know some people are saying that he's a little bit overhyped, saying that, everybody's just trying to find the next Mercules, and, does he really, deserve it? I think he does, man. I think he deserves all of the hype and praise. And next Mercules, I don't know, but I think that he can definitely, hold a candle to at least a lot of the people who have been mainstay rosters here in the CDL.
Yeah, I think we got to call it with the Mercules talk just a little bit. Like, obviously, there was all those clips going around of Alluka kind of being a bit, a bit proud, a bit big about himself, sticks his chest out a little bit. This boy's 18 years old. I said a lot of dumb shit at 18, and I was put in considerably less pressured positions than he's currently in. But also, he's turned around and said, look, actually, what I want to do is carry on playing in Challengers. I want to stay in Challengers. He's been basically loaned back to Brooklyn. As far as we're aware, he will be playing the Elite Qualifier with them. And so it's a situation for him of like, he gets that he's got a lot of work to do, but now he's in the spot where he can kind of do a bit of both. If he's smart, if he's any intelligence about himself, he's going to be sitting working overtime right now. He's got the opportunity to continue to grind in challengers. He's just come through from the youth scene. He's clearly developing very well, but now he can compound that growth by learning from the best players in the world. We all saw the announcement being kind of supported by the likes of Simp and so on.
Yep.
They're no doubt looking at him and going, look, if you need anything, brother, come over and speak to us. And he should definitely be doing that. You've also got some incredible minds over there like Crowder and Co, who will be happy to spend a couple of extra hours with you, I'm sure. So yeah, very hopeful for him. I'm also very glad that we're still going to get to see him light it up in challengers.
Now, with all this Alluka talk, it does beg the question, though, Enigma, if, Alluka does go on and manages to surprise everybody and maybe becomes a mainstay staple on whether it be the FaZe Vegas or he gets traded to another team who wants to pick him up and buy him out, what happens to OMiT Brooklyn? They're currently one of our top challengers rosters that are going on there. I kind of just have some questions. It's no surprise in challengers that when a spot on an org as good as OMiT opens up, nobody's guaranteed anything on these other teams. So if you're thinking about maybe a backfill for Alluka on that OMiT Brooklyn roster, is there a player you think that maybe could slot in? Is there maybe an archetype that you think OMiT should look at that would help them continue have the success that they've had so far this season?
This is a really tough one to answer, actually, because there's two parts to this question almost. And the first one is, what do Brooklyn decide to do if Alluka is out of the picture? Because Alluka's a flex currently. However, you also have the likes of Fellow that can also flex and change in between. So does Fellow change roles if so? So, they might have to, really, because it's tough. With the amount of interest that's in Challenge at the minute, it's obviously a wonderful thing. But one of the things is, a lot of the top players, they're already behind brands.
Exactly.
We know, for example, you've got incredibly talented players on the Huntsman. Is anybody going to consider leaving the Huntsman? Not a chance in hell. They're having a great time over there. So you got so many different players, across Stallions, across the Falcons, and so on and so forth. Maybe I take a look at some of the players on Next Threat. So you're potentially looking at like an Exceed or someone. But it's a case of, for me, on Next Threat, the best player is Standy. I think he's absolutely frying out at the minute. Don't get me wrong, very strong foursome. Johnny also putting on very well. In fact, the SMGs just in general looking fantastic. But then it's like, if I'm Brooklyn, do I go, if I'm Fellow, okay, what I'll do is I'll flex, hop that AR at points, and bring Standy in. And does that, maybe that's the kind of solution. But it's tough because if you go past the top, like, I don't know, 8 teams, your options become considerably, I'd hate to say the word like you're downgrading, but it feels like you're dropping a tier to pick a couple of players, to pick a player up. And what does that then do to Brooklyn? I don't think it's pretty.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, right? Is that, to me, I think you have one of two options. One is kind of what, your brain immediately went to, right? Do you find another high power flex that can kind of come in, or even just ignore the flex part, another high power player? Because I think the reality is when we look at the stat line of Alluka in some of these past cups, the fact of the matter is he is finding a lot of kills on the map, right?
Yes.
And if you ever played, I don't care if it's a ranked game, with somebody who is frying out, you feel that pressure is getting alleviated on the map. It's those kills, that those two pieces that open the map up, that allow just, it feels so easy for the rest of your team. I don't care if it's hard point, I don't care if it's overload, right, where you're gonna be able to cut a lane to be able to get a score in. It's you do so much. So I wonder, do OMiT Brooklyn try and say, hey, I don't care if it's an AR, I don't care if it's a sub, we can kind of move the pieces around where we just backfill that absolute carnage that we had on the map that coming in? Or do you go back to the drawing board? Do you change the system because you like a certain high caliber player? You think the team composition will fit a little bit better, and maybe you do change that system a little bit, something like you were saying, where you maybe have a fellow who moves to a flex, and now you kind of say, hey, you know, what we were doing before was great when we had Alluka. We don't have Alluka anymore. We now have to kind of make sure that we play to the strengths of the players that we have, and we're not trying to, like, you know, square peg into round hole the situation of just trying to get somebody to backfill the shoes that Alluka left.
It would be a tough one for the team should it happen. And I think that honestly what we're saying is potentially fellow changing might be the best option.
Yeah.
It's weird though, because I mean, there's obviously so much talent in North American challengers that is there someone that we're just totally missing that off the radar right now? You know, you look down, maybe like, for example, next that Red currently possess Hyde. A lot of people had a lot of hope on him as well. The other players breaking through from that group are Nate and Alluka, who currently are on Brooklyn. So it's like, okay, well, could that be something? I don't know. Millie is also on that roster. Yumi liked the look of him when he was on Cabal. So it's tough. It's a really tough one. I always look at the name Hamza. I don't think it's been the best for him over the recent years, but I mean, that boy put on back in the days. If you can get anywhere back near that form. But it's just like, it does feel like at the minute we have this like almost top 8 that feel like consistently strong. After that, we're a little bit here and there. So yeah, options would be slim. It's a good thing they've managed to loan him back. Yeah,
and I'm going to throw one last name out there that, would it happen? Probably not, but I'd love to see it happen. Do we see P-Dog, Mr. Priesta himself? One of the best flexes that we've seen. He's been looking very good in Black Ops 7. Like, I know you're playing underneath that Falcons banner, and, you know, I know a lot of people, they don't want to move away from that, but I think Priesta's a winner, dude. He's got that competitive mindset, that competitive aura. If he maybe thinks that he's a better chance with maybe an OMiT Brooklyn team versus his current roster, and that's really the undertone of this entire Challengers thing. Yes, you might be signed to a brand. Yes, you might have an org backing you, but in Challengers lately, it feels like it's all about who you think you can win with the most. Now, another thing that we're very excited for is that the Elite is back, but we know that there's a lot of brand new eyes on the Challengers scene this year.
Yes.
So Enigma, I want to take a moment, just kind of break down how does the Elite work, because it's not just a one-off tournament like we've had with the Cups leading up to so far. It's a little bit more nuanced. We get a little bit more into sort of a league type of structure. So Enigma, help me break down with the viewers how this Challenger Elite is going to work.
Yeah, so this is where we're essentially going to create our semi-pro division, if you will, the best of the amateurs, those that should be right on the cusp of entering the league. This is certainly what will matter a hell of a lot more than the Cups going forward. So everybody wants to be a part of it, especially if you're a player. So the qualifier will be this weekend coming. The top 32 teams signed up, and that is organized via pro points that you've been playing for through this season, will enter the qualifier. This is in a double elimination bracket. The top 12 will qualify through to season 1. Now, I know I'm using the term season. They're now called seasons. They used to be called stages. We're going to use them interchangeably. Bear with us. It's a pain in the ass. But you then qualify through to the season, and that then splits off into 2 groups of 6.
Yeah, and so we kind of come on down here to the Elite seasons that we have going on. You can see here, obviously. So once we get down to those top 12 that are here between NA and EMEA, you'll then, like Enigma said, you get split into 2 groups of 6. You go through round robin play within your group. The top 4 teams from each group will then advance into an 8-team double elimination bracket. Okay, so that's where we then get into the Challenger Elite bracket side, and that's where sort of the money gets made, as we like to say. Yeah. So you can see here this schedule. You can find this actually on the Call of Duty League website if you want. You can just type in, I literally think I Googled like Challengers Elite schedule, and you can get to this site. So please feel free to go ahead and do that. Maybe we'll link it down below as well. But to kind of give you just a little bit of the times, this is where we kind of, season 1 starts January 7th through the 8th. And you have the week 2 is the 14th and 15th, week 3 being the 21st and 22nd. So we go through, I believe, 3 weeks before we get to the bracket that's there as well. So, and those are all broadcasted, commentated on the Call of Duty Challengers YouTube channel as well. So make sure you're checking that out because we have some fantastic casters in Challengers who will be covering a lot of those games, and we'll do a great job of really showcasing an actual sort of professional limelight a lot of these matches that are going on. So, we've had some great members like we talked about last week who've been doing some good stuff in the community, but now this is where it gets a lot more professional, a lot more formalized here with the Elite. And don't worry, there's also other cups for teams that don't make the Elite for them to still be able to play and earn those pro points as well. So if your favorite team doesn't make the Elite, it's not like all of a sudden their season is done and they're just twiddling their thumbs until the next Elite that's going on. There's still plenty more Call of Duty to play for them.
I think there's two important points to not miss out here very quickly, just to tag on to the end. One of them being that if you get through to the playoffs, you are guaranteed Elite status for the next stage. Now, you might be thinking, wait, well, 12 qualifiers came into this. Now you're going to be keeping 8. Yes, that is correct. We're going to stage 2. We definitely have 8 teams, so only 4 will then qualify in through to the next, to join those 8 that are already there, basically. Also, in terms of the broadcast dates, I'm pretty sure that the way it works is the first 4 days are groups, and then the last 2 are to do with the playoff bracket. It could be different, so don't shoot me if I'm wrong. But that important little tidbits potentially.
Yeah, well, we'll get all of that sorted out for you. Do not worry. But we just also want to let people know, like we said, where can they watch? How does this work? And honestly, I really like the schedule, Enigma. I think it's kind of cool, right? We kind of going from that tournaments all the time into, like you said, more of a group stage. You have time to kind of learn and develop over the course of the weeks until you get to that
some good games, man.
Yeah. We're gonna have some good games. And I think everyone's gonna be eating this year for certain when we kind of obviously in the games leading up to that bracket. So very excited for at least this first Elite to be able to go on. Definitely gonna be a banger. If you thought Challengers has been exciting up until this point, don't worry, friends. It actually literally only gets better from here, and we're going to be the entire step of the way. So really kind of curious, what did you guys think about the Pup Cup that went on this last weekend? How are we feeling about Alluka? Any ideas on who you guys think maybe could sub in on OMiT Brooklyn? And what are you most excited about for Elite 1? But that's all we have for this week in Challengers. I'm Dandro. That's Enigma. We'll see you next week.